Gabriella did a number of pieces of work for us. The first one was when she came in to work with our design and marketing team, because we were having a lot of problems which we'd had over a number of years that were getting in the way of our marketing campaigns. So the work that Gabriella did with us was really good, because it gave the team a chance to talk about what the issues were and to find a way to resolve them. And that meant that they could go on to, when those issues would come up quite frequently, but now after the work with Gabriella we had a way to resolve them, so that was really important. So rather than waste time sort of in unspoken kind of conflict or whatever, now people could actually talk to each other about those issues, agree a solution, arrive at a solution, or accept that actually they didn't agree with this particular road, but that was okay, and then move forward. So that was a very useful piece of work.
Well, Gabriella came to our organisation to provide us with an opportunity to meet as an organisation, as a team, for an hour once a month, for the majority of the work that we did with her, and I think it was more frequently fortnightly at the end. I was clinical director of an organisation treating young people with severe mental health problems, and we had a staff team of about 30 people doing very difficult and emotionally taxing work, and the organisation was going through quite difficult change at the time, with a move of premises, a reduction in the size of the team necessitating redundancies, and we wanted to do everything we could to try and make sure that the team were able to maintain very high standards of work during this period of change. One of the things that is always important is to maintain very effective communication, and that can be at risk, I think, when there's a lot of pressure. And so the main purpose of the consultation was to provide a setting in which the whole team, all the members of the team, could talk together and could speak their minds about what was happening, get support from each other, but also to challenge and confront where necessary.
Another time which we brought Gabriella in was when we were having a number of problems with, well, we have quite a lot of freelancers who work for us, and the freelancers are quite competitive with each other, for the work, and there was a lot of bad feeling had built up between staff and freelancers, and between freelancers over a number of years, and it was starting to make things feel like a battle rather than a pleasure. So the work that Gabriella did with us as part of an away day or a team building day was to sort of facilitate a session in which those things could be looked at and addressed, and she used some really interesting sort of techniques which made it okay for people to be able to say what they needed to say. It's interesting because we couldn't, if I'd said the things, it wouldn't have worked. It would have been too emotional, and there would have been too much attached to it. But having Gabriella there to sort of, it was almost like a conducting an orchestra, really, bringing in one section and then another, and at first it's all a bit dissonant, if that's the right word, and then by the end of it it's starting to at least have the beginnings of some kind of harmony, but that was really useful, and it meant that going forward a lot of the tension between the freelancers and our staff was reduced or dissipated, and that was important to the business, because again it was getting in the way of the business, and that's obviously not okay. I think the thing that I found most helpful was, for example, another piece of work that Gabriella did with us was with a team of senior managers, and again, it's having that forum in which people can start to have a truthful discussion with each other, because so often the discussions that people have with each other are not truthful, and if they're not truthful, then you don't make any progress. You're all in your sort of little silos. So what was really useful was having that forum whereby people could start to talk honestly with each other about how they felt about things. But again, to me, one of the huge values is that you then have a way to go forward, because obviously you can't have Gabriella or people working with you every single day. So what you have to be left with to make it worthwhile is a way forward, and I think that was what was really valuable to us.
I think almost certainly the most important element was the way that she was able to make it feel safe, particularly for the younger and more junior members of the team, to speak their minds. She was able to create an atmosphere in which it felt safe to speak, and I think her warmth and empathy really helped people feel that it was possible to say things which were quite difficult, quite challenging to management particularly. I think it would have been very hard for them to say those things which needed to be said without her presence.
The thing that particularly struck me was the work around conflict management, where in the past I've worked with actors with role play, and I found the work that we did with Gabriella was much better in that particular area, because it meant that everybody was experiencing the feelings directly for themselves rather than them being mediated through an actor, which to my mind meant that the learning was much more authentic, if you like, and also much quicker and therefore cheaper. The other thing that I found particularly great about with the approach that Gabriella has is the time that you have for reflection, so that you go through the process, but you have time. Gabriella takes you back to reflect on sort of what you've learned, so that you absorb it much more effectively than if you just sort of go racing through. So I think for me that was another really important thing, that space for reflection.
Well, it's always difficult to know quite what a difference any particular intervention makes, because of course one can't compare it with the situation if you hadn't had it. But I am about as certain as I can be that the consultation with Gabriella made a huge difference in the capacity of the members of the team to continue to work together effectively through a very difficult time of change and reduction in staff numbers, very, very stressful. And I think without the consultation it would have been much more difficult to have maintained effective communication and working together in the organisation.
I think the difference that working with Gabriella made to my team and the organisation was in many respects to make it a happier place, because there's nothing more depressing than coming into work and feeling that you can't talk to your colleagues, that you can't move forward. It's so unrewarding. So to have a place where you know that there is a way that you can talk to your colleagues about problems, and it's not, you haven't got to pretend that the problem doesn't exist anymore, but nor will you necessarily, because the fear is always that you're going to really upset your colleague and they'll go off in a huff and all that kind of thing. So to have a way that you can, to know that there's a way that you can talk to them, that it's going to be okay for you, it's going to be okay for them, just makes it a happier organisation.